that feeling, it wasn't even being let go that was the dagger or the nail in the coffin. That was just like the precursor. The dagger for me was the feeling of being walked out by security. You give them your security badge and they're like, we'll pack all your stuff up in a little box. I think it's called a banker's box, cardboard box. And everybody's in their cubicle. They kind of like raise up and you can see like their eyes and they're looking like, oh, this person is being let go.
What does it really take to become an entrepreneur when you don't have the perfect background, unlimited resources, or a clear roadmap? Andrew Wildman dropped out of high school and went on to build Bank Vodka, a Canadian luxury brand. This conversation is about belief, resilience, and what it takes to keep building when success is not guaranteed. You're a busy man, and you're a busy man because you've overcome some amazing adversity throughout your life, which we'll talk about. Where I want to start, Andrew, is that feeling that people have where they're meant for something greater, but there's something inside them that's talking them out of moving to action.
Yeah.
Why do you think people struggle with that so much when there's something they desire and they want so adamantly?
I think really and truly, it's how they've been conditioned. I think the system, when I say the system, like not in a conspiracy theorist type of way, but the educational system, it grooms you to become like a worker bee, right? I dropped out of high school. I left because I was exposed to entrepreneurship from a very young age through my mom. And, sitting in school, it wasn't like school was never hard for me. It didn't interest me almost as if it was too easy based on what I wanted to do with my life, right? So I think when I'll never forget like that year that I said, I'm going to actually drop out. It was grade 11 going into grade 12. And I'm just taking like a step back and I'm looking at how we are being conditioned, how we're being programmed. And I think, over the course of somebody's lifetime, from the time they start going to school until post-secondary, if they choose to go to post-secondary, there are little drippings of, fall in line, start on the corporate ladder, mailroom. If you want to ever get to CEO, you got to start here. And I just didn't look at it like that. I think that inhibits a lot of people. I think a lot of people have an idea, but they're so terrified of like, oh my gosh, like if I leave this system that has been in place since the beginning of the modern age, actually even before, because we have scholars from way back, but so they've been a part of, let's say, this modern system of, go to school, get a good job, start in the mailroom, work your way up. By the time you're 90 years old, you can retire maybe in a C-suite or VP type of situation. I think when they feel like they're getting away from that, it puts a lot of fear in them, and that fear delays or even fully impedes their them being able to start the entrepreneurship journey. So I think it's a slow conditioning over many, many years, which is why most people don't, take that leap. If we were to say a select few, like a very smaller demographic, maybe people that think more like myself, but have still not been able to take that leap, I think they're just so comfortable with what they're already doing, right? Like entrepreneurship is a huge, huge risk, massive risk, with massive reward.
Yeah, where there's no risk, there's no reward, usually is what they say.
Exactly.
For yourself, so you were in this system, you talked about dropping out of school. So
yeah.
What was that catalyst for you to break away from that system that has been so ingrained in society?
Yeah, so for me, the catalyst was I was in high school making more money than my teachers. So here I am, grade 11. My background is in music. So like I had a record deal with Rough Riders. I was touring with DMX, rest in peace, and Swiss Beats and Busta Rhymes, all these guys doing massive shows. But before all that, before I even got my record deal, I was recording music on my mom's computer, burning them onto CDs, blank CDs that I'd buy from Walmart. And I would go to the clubs, I'd go to other schools, I'd go to my school, I'd go to the, you know, malls, wherever, and sell these things at $10 a pop, like out the trunk of my car, pretty much, out of my book bag, whatever the case may be. So here I am, grade 11. I sold 1,000 CDs in a month. And I'm also doing little shows. I'm doing little freestyle competitions, whatever. And I'm like, wait a minute, $10,000 in 1 month, minus my cost at $250 a pop. That's $2,500. I mean, I netted $7,500. Why am I listening to my high school teacher? That I'm not saying high school teachers don't have valuable information, is my specific experience. Why am I listening to my high school teachers regurgitate information that I can go access on my own? And I'm spending 8 hours a day or however many hours a day in school, right? I'm spending that time there when I could be out making money. Meanwhile, school is not teaching me, well, at least high school wasn't at that time teaching me about my taxes. They weren't teaching me any sort of financial literacy, right? It was like, I don't care about a compulsory drama credit or a compulsory art credit. Even though I love the arts, I love drama, I love acting and stuff like that. I love, visual arts, multimedia stuff. I'm not against it, but I'm just like, how is this going to help me when I go out into the real world? So that was the thing for me. I was just like, it just became so simple. If you can net $100,000 for the year, take home, what is that on paper? Like if you had a 9 to 5, that's about 160 maybe after your taxes and everything come out. So you're probably about 160 minus everything. You go home with 100. I could be right, could be wrong. I don't know. It could be close to it. So if you make $10,000 in a month just selling CDs, and that's just, part-time thing. You just Friday, Saturday, you go to the club, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you go to the club. Let's say 2 other days during the week, you spend a couple hours going to different high schools at the time. I'm like, just rinse and repeat, right? Rinse and repeat. And I didn't know any of my teachers that had $100,000 in their bank account. So I'm like, and even right now, like today, 2026, how many people do I know that have $100,000 like liquid just sitting in their bank account? So I would say that by even today's standards, if you have that just sitting in savings, liquid cash, you're okay. You're okay. Like you're not going to sleep super stressed as long as your overhead isn't crazy. So yeah, that was my thing back then, and that was, what was I, 16, 17?
That's incredible.
Right? I'm 42 now. So, that was a long time ago, and I was already looking at things like that. So, yeah.
That's incredible. That's incredible to have that itch at, such a young age, and to be involved in that hobby at that time was something you were very passionate about, and it helped you kind of launch into moving into it full time. So how much do you think, when people think about entrepreneurship and they think about it as, the outcome of being free, doing your own thing,
Yep.
being the person in control of your own domain sort of thing, how much of that has to align with your passion? Because some people are looking for that to figure out, okay, what do I want to do? But it was like instinctual for you. It was something that was a part of who you were at the time, and it grew. But not everybody has that same sort of attachment to something outside of their everyday.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of configure that if you're not passionate about one certain thing in the moment that you know of?
I think I think some people have to rewire themselves, right? For instance, my passion is music. That is my passion. I have been fortunate enough to experience the music business at a very, very high level and participate in the music business at a very high level. Again, performing in arenas. Like I did that. Barclays Center in New York. Like it doesn't get much bigger than that with some of the biggest acts. But, as much as I love music, wh- I, when I look at business, I know more millionaires and billionaires from business than I do in music, but I know more people in music. So for me, it was like, wait a minute. I love the hustle, right? Because, selling CDs out the trunk of the car, that's a hustle. So I'm not afraid of the work. I'm not afraid to put myself out there. I'm not afraid to introduce myself to people. Um, Getting into business, I think I found a new passion, which was business itself, right? So I think people, some people, your passion could be, I don't know, knitting. But let's say you knit sweaters, or you find a manufacturer that can make your sweaters look like they were handmade, yada yada, but nobody buys them. Now you have a whole passion that you've turned into a business, but you're not generating any revenue. So are you going to sit there and continue doing that because that's your passion? Meanwhile, if somebody came along and said, look, I have a cast iron pan company, and cast iron pans are flying off the shelves, right? And we're going to undercut the competition. And I guarantee you can go out right now with these cast iron pans in the trunk of your car, and you can make yourself $20,000 a week. Are you going to be like, I don't want to go sell cast iron pans because it's not my passion? You know what I mean? Whereas me, I'm like, how much a week? Let's go. Like that's not my passion, because
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, like I'm not a materialistic person, but I'm very cognizant of, money. It takes money to live, right? And the lifestyle that I would like to live, it's going to take money. Like you need money to pay for your rent slash mortgage. You need money to pay for your phone bill. You need money to put gas in your car. You need money to eat. You need money to clothe yourself. You need money to take care of others if you have dependents, family, things like that. So my passion is making that money. All I need to do is understand the product that I'm selling and know where my clients are and how to bridge that gap. And that's how I'm going to get to my passion, which is making the money. The business itself, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sell my soul. I'm not going to compromise my integrity or my moral compass. But the business itself is almost irrelevant,
Yeah.
right? The kind of business, right? Like I sold gym memberships. Was selling gym memberships my passion? No, but I love getting that great commission check at the end of the month.
You know what's such an interesting thing that I just realized as you were talking is a lot of people who think about entrepreneurship think about doing what their passion is. That's usually the question. Even if they talk to people about it, it's what's your passion? Then
Yeah,
go and lean into it. However, really, you think about the outcome of entrepreneurship is what maybe a lot of people are inspired by. The
yeah,
freedom,
yeah,
both, from time and compensation. It's like
yeah,
you're in control of your own destiny. It's the output, the
yeah.
outcome of being an entrepreneur, what you want. And what you're saying is, yeah, it's great to have a passion, but if your passion isn't immediately going to give you the freedom that you're looking for, what else that you can do that will give you or get you closer to that freedom that you're looking for? So it's not always essentially about the passion. It could be about just doing something that makes you feel as though you're moving closer to that outcome of what entrepreneurship makes you feel.
For sure. I think, and just to like add some reality for, the people that are going to be watching this, entrepreneurship is not all rainbows and gumdrops and, bags of money falling from the sky. You're
It isn't? What? No.
like, the outcome, the finish line, right? There's a couple things. Sometimes the finish line doesn't exist. Like I know people that are worth $30 billion and they're still working to this day. It's like you have $30 billion. Why are you still working? Because there is no finish line for them. It's like, how much more can I achieve? Like, how can I leave my mark on this world? Right? Like, it's about legacy at that point in time. They already have them. Shoot, if you have $500 million, forget that. If you have $50 million, you're set for life. For life. I think the actual number is like 5 million today. Like if you have $5 million and you put it in the right vehicle, you're pretty much good for the rest of your life. Right. So Now multiply that by 100. You have $500 million minimum. Like, why are you still working at that point? It's like it's something greater. It's legacy. It's you want to be with the Ted Rogers of the world, the titans of the world, the moguls of the world. And that's what's driving you. I think a lot of people look at the finish line, they're like, oh man, like I want to be an entrepreneur because I want the 10,000 square foot house. I want to travel whenever I want. I want the luxury cars, this, that, and the third. Whatever your fantasy looks like. But to be real, not every entrepreneur gets there, right? Some people, they pivot. Some people, they start aiming toward that and working towards that. And then somewhere in their journey, they're like, I don't need that. And they're like, I'm cool with 250,000 a year, right? 250,000 a year, like that as an example, right? They could be like, if I can take home $250,000 a year, this pays all my bills. I can travel once a month, right? Or once every 2 months. I can go out to eat wherever I want. I'm good. I'm not stressed. I don't have to worry about micromanaging anybody or managing a team. I don't have to worry about a whole slew of clients that I don't like. I don't have to worry about operations, logistics, this, that, and the third, because when you're making serious money, a lot of times you have to scale your business, which, the more things that are happening or the more things you have to keep your eye on, right? And sometimes it's personalities on your team and people that you're dealing with in the public that are actually paying you. So you're real bosses, even though you're an entrepreneur, you're still, beholden to somebody. Like, that's your customer. They're paying you. That's your boss. So some people, they start getting into it and they realize it's not for them, right? I've seen that happen. And there's some people, like I said, who hit a million, they're like, keep going, hit 10, they keep going, and hit 100, keep going, hit a billion, keep going. Now they're like in the tens of billions and they still keep going, right? Because that's not the thing for them. So it's very important to, I think, look at it from a very realistic view. I think everybody's just wired differently when it comes to what the finish line looks like and why they're going for it. And it resonates and aligns with some people on their journey. Like for me, it does. For some people, it doesn't. And that's fine too. And not everybody's gonna make it. That's just the reality. Everybody can't. I'll put it like this.
Why is that?
Because it's just how it shakes out. It's like you could have the best product, but not know how to sell. So then what's the answer to that question? Build a team of people who know how to sell. But then what if you just don't build a team because either you're lazy or you can't find the right people, or your approach to the people who can actually help you is wrong, or you have people that want to help you, but they're engaged in other things. There's so many extenuating circumstances as to why you will not or cannot be successful. However, for every situation where the outcome is you not being successful, I would definitely say there's 10 other things that would allow you to be successful. So it's really on you. Like it's one of these things where, can you handle the pressure? Are you going to fold? Are you going to break? Like for me, I don't quit. I don't break. I don't fold. None of that. Like I pivot. I just pivot. You ever see, I don't know what it's called, but it's like one of these games they usually have at the fair where you put like the chip or whatever at the top and it goes clink, 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 clink.
Oh,
clink,
Plinko.
clink.
Yeah.
Yes, clink. Okay. That is how I look at entrepreneurship. That's what it is. You might start on this side. It's like the goal, because at the bottom, it'll have like in the middle, usually like however many points, let's say 1,000 points. And then as you go further out to the side, it goes 500, 250, and then like 100, and then like 0 on each end, right? So you start at the top and it's all these little pegs on the way. And you don't know, like, you're like, okay, if I put it on this side, it's going to work its way to the middle. That is entrepreneurship. You have an idea in your mind, like, I'm going to go from here, from point A to point B. But meanwhile, it's like point A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, like it's all over. And then sometimes you might not even hit your goal at the bottom, right? Because you're having to pivot and things change. You know, you look at the music industry, nobody saw Napster coming, right? Record executives were used to making X amount of millions of dollars per year. Artists had budgets of millions and, tens of millions of dollars for projects and things like that. And then Napster comes, internet comes, CDs stop selling, everything goes digital, and they're like, oh shoot, what happens now? Right? Technology could evolve where it just eradicates your entire business. Or there's somebody else who captures lightning in a bottle that look at the AI space right now. It's insane, right? That is going to eliminate so many jobs, so many careers, but it's also going to create new ones, right? So there's a variety of reasons as to why somebody wouldn't make it.
What is, and a lot of the things that you mentioned there are extrinsic reasons. What
Yeah,
are some of the internal reasons that keep people from succeeding?
it's their stick-to-itiveness. Like I love that word. I use it weekly, if not every other day.
Say it again.
Okay, stick-to-itiveness, right?
What is that?
So are you able to stick with it, right? So I heard it in school. It was like a made up thing, stick-to-itiveness, whatever. But do you possess stick-to-itiveness? Can you stick to it? You are a physically fit individual, right? How often do you train?
5 days a week.
Did your results come overnight?
No.
It takes years. Like, and I come from the gym industry as well. That's why, sidebar, like the gym membership was the hardest product I've ever had to sell in my life. You have to convince somebody to give you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, depending on the gym that you're going to, right? You have to convince them to give you money for them to then put the action and the effort into something they don't want to do. They have to make time for it. It's going to hurt. It's going to take time for them to see results. They don't get that instant dopamine hit. Some people, if they're wired that way, they're like, oh, I just got a good workout. Like, I'm good. Like, regardless if they're seeing the results right away. But then you also have to do the maintenance on the back end. You have to make sure you're eating right. You have to make sure you're getting your sleep. You have to make sure you're taking your vitamins. All these things cost. So, that are you able to stick with that? For you to achieve the physique that you have currently, you had that stick-to-itiveness. You stuck with the program because you were like, if I keep doing this over this amount of time, I'm going to see my results. Physicality is obviously a little bit different than the entrepreneurship journey, right? Because you're talking about, are you in a calorie deficit? Are you in a surplus? Are you having this many? What are your macros looking like? Yada, yada, this, that, and the third. Usually, barring any sort of health issues, if you put the work in and then you adhere to this program, you will see the results. It's almost a guarantee, again, barring any health situations. Where entrepreneurship is different. It's like you could execute the plan perfectly and still not get the results because, again, something just changed. And I think what happens internally is you have to be willing to take the beating. Like, you have to. If you can't take that beating, it's over for you. Because you could be up one day, you feel like you're king of the hill or queen of the hill, and the next day you lost everything and you got to rebuild. Like, there are so many people in history, in modern history, that have actually not only filed for bankruptcy, but lost everything, but they got it back because they were like, I'm not going to quit. I've done it once. I can do it again. Some people, they're not cut out for that. They took a beating to get it one time. They were at the end of their rope and the straw broke the camel's back and they're like, I'm done. Entrepreneurship is a grimy, dirty, no holds barred MMA fight, pretty much.
I love how you preface that stick-to-itiveness. And I'm going to use that word. I'm going to take that away. I think that word is fantastic. So I'm definitely going to be echoing that. But I do love that concept and I love that idea. And I do think there's a certain level of resilience and perseverance that you have to have. And a lot of people, some people have it and some people don't. And I think it's situational as well. I think there's some things that we could apply that to really easily. And then there's other things that are a little bit more difficult. I always am of the mind that it's about, is the pain of staying the same greater than, the pain of change.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people start to make a decision where they say, I just can't keep the same way that I am right now, or keep doing the same thing that I have right now. So I know people have different motivations. So I love how you explain that. For you,
There's
go ahead.
sorry, there's a little thing that is very similar to that I've heard. It's like being broke is hard. Achieving your dreams is hard. Pick your heart.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're both hard. Like what is it for you? And just again, just to sprinkle on a little bit of like reality for most people, like so because I don't want to ever sugarcoat this entrepreneurial journey. As amazing as it is, it has its, it's downtime, it's ultimate highs and sometimes ultimate lows. Not everybody's on the same journey. So I'll definitely say that when people begin their journey, it's important to keep your eye on the prize, yes, but like be prepared to get some bumps along the way, like bumps and bruises, sometimes some crazy war scars. And that's what it is. So if you're sitting there and you're like, oh man, like being broke is hard, and working a 9 to 5 sitting in a cubicle is hard, because the company's paying you. Let's say you're making them 800,000, they're giving you 80,000, right? Because that's how they make their money, off of your hard work. And you're like, man, how do I do that? And then you go on your own, and now you're like, shoot, like I'm eating cans of tuna and rice for the next like 8 months, and that's just all you can eat because you got to pay your rent, and put gas in your car or whatever the case may be. Sometimes you have to sell your car. I've seen people on their entrepreneurial journey have to sell their prized possessions to fuel or fund their dream, because they're like, I'm going to get it back. Like that's when you're in.
Yeah, it's such a very interesting example that you just said, because I think when you hear a lot about people and their success story, obviously Bill Gates is a prime example, right? Somebody who was in Harvard and dropped out. And you look at that and you say, okay, did I land on something that is going to give me so much success that I'm willing to, stop the things that I have that are secure? Obviously you probably watch Shark Tank. Many people watch it.
Yep.
You'll hear a lot of entrepreneurs say the same thing. They've taken a second mortgage out on their home. Like they've essentially leaned against risk, leaned against, their assets, just to ensure that they're able to fuel this. So that is obviously an important thing that you have to diagnose about yourself to see, do you have that risk capacity? But initially you have to start somewhere. You have to make that decision to say, okay, I'm going to give up everything that I'm currently comfortable with to make that happen. So for you, thinking back, what was that mental change for you, regardless of how passionate or how successful you were with your side hustle? What made you just burn the boats?
I was working at TELUS. I was working as a client account manager. So I was the person that, your phone's suspended. You go to make a phone call, and it's like, you're now being redirected to TELUS, right? And I pick up the phone, like, hi, this and the third. Or you're calling me because you're like, your account's off, right? Your services are off, and you're like, okay, I know I have an overdue bill. I need to make a payment arrangement, yada, yada. I was working for them, and, at the time, I was a high school dropout. I passed all my testing. I did like 3 or 4 interviews, including an in-person. And out of everybody that applied, they only hired 2.7% of people that applied, because they were opening a brand new call center in Barrie at the time. And, I applied, and I guess, I had the IQ and the gumption to, fit the criteria for the job. And here I am. At the time I was making almost $20 an hour, benefits, the whole nine. Like that was good. In like 2003, 2004, that was good money. You getting $20 an hour, like that was great, because I don't even know what minimum wage was back.
You're
back
balling.
then,
You got
right?
the spinning rims back then. Dude,
Listen, I bought a Mustang, like and this is the interesting part. Like what you're saying, like I went and bought a Mustang. I had all these credit cards. I had a brick card, a Future Shop card. Like now I'm dating myself. You know what I mean? Like I had all these cards. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And, you know, on I was blindsided by being let go, right? Like here I am. I have these plans. I'm like, oh, I'm counting the checks. I'm like, I'm counting the rest of the year's checks. I'm like, if I do this for X amount, I can have this amount put away, yada, yada. And I'm carrying debt because I have credit cards, right? I have a car payment, yada, yada. And one day I go in and, you know, I'm let go. And that feeling, it wasn't even being let go that was the dagger or the nail in the coffin. That was just like that was the precursor. The dagger for me was the feeling of being walked out by security. You give them your security badge, right, to be able to fob or buzz in or fob in or whatever, swipe in, and they're like, we'll pack all your stuff up and they'll put it in a little box. I think it's called a banker's box or something like that, a cardboard box from your cubicle. And the feeling of being walked out, like, and everybody's in their cubicle, they kind of like raise up and you can see like their eyes, right? And they're looking like,
That's like
oh
straight out
shoot.
of a movie.
Yeah, like you're like this person is being let go. And they let go of a bunch of people during that period in time. And it was just before I was supposed to get my bonus. That feeling, I felt like I was wronged beyond belief. Like I felt like they did me so wrong. I still feel like I was done wrong, but that was something that I was like, I held on to that and I never want to feel like that again. Ever, ever, ever in my life. Ever. Like people that you worked with looking at you like some sort of leper. You know what I mean? Like, oh, like what's this person? What happened? Meanwhile, they just let me go. And it's like they don't want to, nobody says, oh, like I wish you the best, da da da. Everybody just looks at you crazy and you're being walked out. And for no, to be honest, it was for no reason. Like they were just making cuts and I was one of the cuts. Right. So yeah, that. I never want to feel like that again.
Y- y- It, thanks that you shared that. I'm glad that you shared that.
Mm,
And I feel like sometimes there's entrepreneurship outcomes that you're pulled towards and you've made a
mm.
decision to move towards it. And then sometimes in circumstances like this, you're pushed. If you weren't pushed, what do you think it would have taken for you to make this move ultimately, even if you got that job?
I if I was still at that job, I would have I would have left 100% because for me, I'll look at I'll explain it like this. Growing up in government housing, I was fascinated by TLC, Discovery Network, A&E, all these channels where you can acquire so much information about the outside world, right? Because growing up in metro housing, like at least where I grew up, you're kind of in this like little box. It's like you know your neighborhood, your block, and you know the immediate surroundings, the school, the mall, and then let's say going to Yorkdale was like a treat. You know, it's like we're going to Yorkdale, put on your Sunday best. Like we're going to Yorkdale, it's like whoa, you know, because you spend most of your life in this housing community. Now, how I'm wired specifically, it's like me sitting there watching TV and seeing places like Havana, Greece, London, Paris on TV, Italy. I'm like, there's more out there. There's more out there. So I would have gotten to a point in my 9 to 5 career that I would have plateaued for a bit, right? Because it's not like you go from just a regular worker to assistant manager to general manager. Like it's usually not super super fast. Like they keep you there for a little bit. They want to see how you are. I would have, and then the higher you go, sometimes the longer it takes to get to the next level. It's almost like a video game. Like the further along in the game you get, the harder the final bosses are to then advance, right? That the final task. So I would have, just how I'm wired, sitting in one place for too long and feeling like there's a ceiling, like there's a limitation being put on me, I would have been fed up and I'd been like, I'm out. I would have left 100,000%. Like it's not even, it's a no brainer. So, yeah, like I am truly an entrepreneur because I know there's more to life. There's
Mhm.
more. There's more. You look at, use Bill Gates as an example. He's a great example, but even look at Elon Musk. At one point this year, he was worth over $1 trillion. A trillion. That's an unfathomable
Ridiculous.
number for most people. Like some people, because I know billionaires, right? And people don't understand the gap between being a millionaire and a billionaire. The gap is crazy. It's like, for anybody watching, it's like somebody who plays junior high basketball against Michael Jordan or LeBron James. Like the gap is that big. Like it's not even fair at that point in time. So now when you think about a trillionaire,
It sets a new bar.
it's insane. Like if you actually were to look at it like physically, I saw one thing one time when they used a billionaire as an example and they had how high would the dollar bill stack. A trillionaire, it'd probably be like it's in like you'd look up forever and just see dollar bill stack. So, knowing that there's other levels to life would have driven me to leave my 9 to 5 100,000%.
Mm.
Like I'm not just gonna sit there.
Yeah.
You're here, and I'm gonna land the plane after this. It's like if you're here for 80 years as a human, you're lucky. Anything after 80 years, every day is a blessing, but anything after 80 years is a super blessing,
Yeah.
right? Because of the lifespan. We're not in a blue zone where we live in North America. It is what it is. Now, you have 24 hours in a day. 8 hours spent at work, 8 hours spent sleeping if you get your full 8 hours. That leaves you with what? 8 left, right? Because you've already used up 16. You use 2 hours doing miscellaneous stuff. So taking phone calls, going to the washroom, eating lunch, whatever. That leaves you with 6. You spend 1 hour commuting to work, 1 hour commuting home from work. Both are unpaid. That leaves you with 4. So essentially, the average person, if they get their 8 hours sleep, they work 8 hours, they travel an hour to and from work, they essentially have 4 hours a day that belongs to them. You have to live 6 days to own a day. So when you look at it like that, and then you say, I'm only here potentially for 80 years, let's just use an 80-year lifespan, right? You look at that and you're like, I've been locked down in school, let's say if you leave school right after high school, so late teens, or if you go to post-secondary, depending on the program, let's say you take a light 3-year program, whatever, early 20s, that's done. How many good years do you have where the average person is functional, they're mobile, right? They can move, they can walk on their own
Yeah, the
unassisted.
energy.
You have the energy, right? You don't need your Metamucil, right? So it's like, let's say that kicks in, the aches and pains start like mid 60s. Some people earlier, but let's just use that as an example. So now, if we use even 20 as the cutoff date for school to 65, that's 45 years to really go crazy. Like that means achieve your goal, enjoy life. Not to say that you wouldn't enjoy life after 65, but I'm talking about what are we doing? We're parasailing. Then we're going to go rent jet skis. Then we're going to go do this. If that's the life you want to live, you want to travel, boom, boom, boom. You want to have, and then if you want to factor in kids, that's a whole different ball game. So you only have a very short window to make it happen. So if that's the case, why just be mediocre? Oh, I get 2 weeks vacation a year. I get to travel once, maybe twice a year. We do one big trip and we do one small trip to New York for the year. That's maybe too big. To Niagara Falls for the year or to Algonquin. That life is crazy to me. That doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me. You can rearrange your life to a point where you own more hours in the day. But that comes, there's a risk to that. And it could yield a great reward, or it could just give you time and, or it could put you on the streets. It's up to you.
What you're saying ultimately is you get to own your time.
100%.
And time is the most, regardless of how much money Elon Musk has, time is the most important commodity. It's the most expensive commodity because it's the one thing you can't get back. And yeah, I think you bring up some really, really good points. And for you now, it seems like we have a really good idea of who Andrew is. And then Andrew decided to take this passion, to take this drive, and start a vodka company, Bank Vodka.
Sure did.
You got to talk about this because I'm a vodka guy. So for me, already you're endeared to me. Look at that bottle. Anybody I've shown the bottle to so far has been so impressed with the design, just the look of it. You got to talk to me about that because, that's an incredible venture. Obviously, vodka business industry is very, very vast. There's already a lot of competitors out there and a lot of big names, obviously promoting those brands. So talk about this. Talk about the inception. How did Andrew start this?
For sure. So I actually had the idea from years ago. We're talking about maybe 2012-ish, where I wanted to do a spirit brand. I wanted to come up with my own. And, that was like, I remember Nouveau came out. It was like a pink, like sparkling wine or something. And it was in the music videos. And you see rappers, like, they had their own alcohol, they had scissor back then. They had so many different things, right? These brands that these artists that I would watch their music videos, they had their own thing. And I'm like, this is actually amazing, right? And so the idea was there, but then when you get down to actually doing the work, you realize that it's not an easy thing to accomplish, right? There's a lot of regulatory barriers that could stop you. And then once you get past those, now it's like a capital situation, right? Like, do you have money? It's very, very expensive. So I've always looked at life, because I played chess growing up, and I would be like, life is chess, not checkers, right? It's about strategy. You have some people in 3 chess moves, like that's checkmate, right? And you have some people that will play the long game and pick you apart slowly, They're anticipating 3, 4, 5 moves ahead. And they're dragging it out depending on their opponent. In this situation, the opponent would be life and business, right? But I would always be as strategic as possible. So for me, once I had the idea and I realized I couldn't bring it to fruition, I said, okay, is there another part of this entrepreneurial journey that I can start that will eventually bring me back to this? Like, because I can't lay this part of the foundation right now, can I start prefabricating the other part? Because then we're looking at like a house, right? So a house, you got to dig the foundation, lay the foundation, then you build on top of that. But my mind went to, okay, I can't lay the foundation for this right now because I don't meet the requirements to get my regulatory stuff together, right? I don't have the capital. So that doesn't mean I'm not going to build a house. So my mind is like, can I prefab everything else? Can I prefab essentially the shell, the house, the roof, all this stuff? So that way, when I'm in a position where I can do the foundation, now I can just put it on top, right? And that's what it was. So music was definitely played a big role in my entrepreneurial journey. And I'll tell you how. It wasn't selling records. Like most people, the general public would probably not even know that I was signed to Rough Riders or that I make music and I performed in arenas, and I know a lot of our favorite artists and this and there, unless they go on my Instagram. But what it allowed me to do, it allowed me to get into rooms. And I believe in networking your net worth, right? I grew up, I went to 14 different schools between here and the Caribbean, primarily Barbuda, and which is beside Antigua. And for me, it was like, I learned very quickly by having friends at different schools. I would go to different areas and run into people. And I'm like, oh, like I have friends all over the place. So now if you apply that to the real adult world, you're like, okay, the more people I know, the more people I can make genuine relationships with and connections, like this is going to assist me, right? Because you can then lean into your network to start generating capital. So, long story short, I start networking. And after music allowed me to do that, it allowed me to be the cool guy to the business types. So, a lot of these business types, by the way, especially billionaires, it's the same person, it's just different people. So it's physically a different person, right? But mentally, they look at shit the same way. Because a millionaire is different than a billionaire. A billionaire looks at things like very usually cut and dry. Emotions aren't really a thing. You know, that doesn't mean they're not a good person. But so you meet them and you're like, okay, I'm meeting this person. I'm meeting this person. Like, I now know how they tick. And they would be like, their lives sometimes are very, very boring because it's just work focused, right? It's just like blinders on, work focused. So I became a part of their social circle because it was like, I'm the cool rapper guy. It's like, look at my new friend. He's a rapper, right? You guys all have friends, but you don't have any rapper friends, right? Because if you look at it now, like a lot of these Robert Kraft, Michael Rubin, a lot of these guys have athlete friends, right? Robert Kraft is in that business and so is Michael Rubin, but they hang out with a lot of people who are outside of their industry. And I think that is their entertainment. That's their social release for them because otherwise it's just work. And I became that person where I was fortunate enough to be around people who were extremely successful. And I used that as an opportunity to network and learn. And then it was like, okay, what do I need to do? The first thing that came about was a jewelry opportunity. I was able to start a wholesale diamond and jewelry manufacturing business, which is still operational today, called Maison Centauri. And I was like, okay, I have this. This is one part of the puzzle, one part of the prefab. And then I was like, it's not hyper scalable. So I started looking at people in the business world that I admire. And you know, you look at Bernard Arnault from LVMH. He's been able to build this conglomerate of companies from Sephora to Tiffany's to Louis Vuitton to Moet to Hennessy to Rimowa. The list goes on and on. Like LVMH is massive. They own so many brands. I think they own almost 100 different brands, like big brands. So I'm like, okay, how do I create my own mini LVMH? It just needs to work for me. It needs to pay my bills, put a roof over my head. So jewelry, I'm meeting a specific customer, right? And they're trusting me with thousands of dollars to bring their vision to life. And then I was like, okay, well, what else can I sell them? And then I started Andrew Bank, which is my fashion brand. And I started making Italian leather duffel bags where we import the leather from Italy. The bags range from 1,500 to 8,000. There's only 100 allocations per year. You buy a number, then from buying the number of the bag, that correlates with a specific price. And then you start customizing the colors of the bag and the materials based on the materials available for that season. That allowed me to leapfrog a lot of other brands. Even though I wasn't as big, it allowed me to tap into a demographic of people who understood luxury, understood the process. They weren't shy about participating in that process. Like they didn't shy away from it at all. It actually added value for them where they're like, now they have a story, they have a bag. It took 2 months to make. They put their order in, their deposit, yada, yada. It's a part of the whole thing. Still not hyper scalable, but that's another part of my LVMH. And the final component where we get into the liquor or the vodka, Bank Vodka, was I needed something hyper scalable under the price point of $100 that would not compromise the integrity of the overarching brand. And when I thought about what could that product be, what can I sell? Because I already have diamonds, I have fashion, luxury fashion. What can I sell that's under $100? So it's a no-brainer. That's hyper scalable, which means it's something that's probably going to be consumed or reordered, reused over and over and over. That wouldn't compromise the integrity of the overarching brand except help. And instead it would help that. And I started looking at champagnes. Moet, a bottle of Moet is what, like 60 to 70 bucks, depending on the kind you buy. A bottle of Veuve, $80, $90, right? Dom, a couple $100. And all of these things are tied, like they're married to luxury, but it's a very cheap product. So I'm like, alcohol's perfect. So now I'm tapping back into the thought I had from forever ago. And now I have this network, because as I said, network your net worth. And I'm like, there's somebody in my network that can help me make this happen. And sure enough, one of my friends who used to work for a massive company, like on, like, we're talking Diageo scale, like not Diageo, but one of the competitors. And I reached out to him, and he had just bought a distillery. And right away, I was like, this, because I have a 20-year rapport now with this person. They trust me with their eyes closed. They could trust me with $1 billion cash. I'm not going to touch it. They know that. And I'm like, I need to meet with them. They can help me bring this to life, because now I'm playing chess, not checkers. It's going to allow me to partner with them in the sense where I can create my own brand, have full autonomy of my brand. I own my brand 100%, but I can now position that brand under their infrastructure, which would allow me to now go to market, because we are highly regulated in Ontario, right? And that's what I did. So it makes everything above board. And that's what really brought that to life. Now, saying I'm going to do vodka specifically, I just looked at the market. Tequila has to come from a specific place in Mexico. I don't want to have to bring alcohol over borders and deal with that headaches. Same thing with champagne. It has to come from a certain region, or it's not going to work. Then when you look at scotches, whiskeys, things like that, the consumer is too finicky, right? Oh, what type of barrels did you use? How long has it been aged? I prefer this over that, yada, yada, yada. A lot of people who drink those products usually drink them neat for the most part, right? Because they're enjoying, it's like a cigar, like, it's a
Yeah.
cigar in a glass of scotch or whatever. So they're not mixing it. So then when I looked at cocktails, vodka was the base of majority of cocktails out there, right? Yeah, vodka, tequila, I'm not willing to do. Gin, the market gets smaller, even though it's the cousin of vodka. And I said, okay, you don't have to age it. A majority of people are going to mix it with something anyway. Now, when I look at the vodka space in Canada, are there any Canadian producers of vodka? For sure. But most of them are economy vodkas. There's nothing in the Grey Goose Belvedere, Chopin, Kettle One space, right? We're talking $50 to $60. Like, it's few and far between. And they're, in my opinion, they were doing it wrong. So for me, I said, well, this is great. And this is before tariffs and things like that. And I'm going to land the plane very shortly. But I looked at the space and I said, now, how is this going to be successful? So I spoke about networking your net worth, building relationships. I went to 14 different schools. I know a lot of people, right? A lot of these people are in food and beverage director positions in hospitality. So I'm going to utilize my relationships with them to get the positioning of the product. I'm going to utilize my vast network to sell product to my people, but I'm going to create something that Canadians can be proud of. That was the main thing. When I travel and I see somebody wearing a Canada Goose jacket in Europe, I'm like, that's ours. I'm like, that's ours. That's our jacket. You're one of us. You're an honorary Canadian right now. Like, that pride. And other countries put so much pride behind their products. I'm sure people in France are super proud of, when they see Grey Goose in different countries, right? They're like, you're drinking our vodka. So why can't we have the same pride here with our products? So I wanted to create something, and the packaging was key, right? There's two things I want to focus on: the smoothness of the liquid, which I'm sure you agree is very, very smooth, but the packaging needed to be phenomenal. It needed to be different. The vodka space has been very rigid and very stagnant for decades, right? The last bit of disruption we had with vodka, it didn't end well, right? The one person's in jail right now. The brand went from a very low selling, financially hemorrhaging brand to an extremely successful brand, back down to the fact that they're losing money and they wanted to offload it off of their books. that was the last time we had any excitement in the vodka space. Everything else is tried true. They left it how it is, and that's that, right?
Mhm.
So for me, it was about, let's make the space interesting. Like, this is art. Look at the bottles behind me, different colors,
Beautiful.
right? Thank you. So we make them collector's items. We don't sell through traditional brick and mortars because we want the experience of getting a bottle, like, you know, like how we met, it to be an organic situation where it's a part of the story. Oh, how did you get this bottle? I actually ran into the owner at this event, and I ended up buying a bottle, and he told me his whole story and yada yada. Now there's a story attached to it. You didn't just walk in and take it off the shelf. You met me. And look at where we are now. Now we're doing an interview, right? Now you're somebody that if you saw me in the mall, you'd be like, oh, I know that guy. That's Drew. Like, he's a friend of mine, right? It's so much different than, what if you just saw this on the shelf, you bought it, you're like, oh, this is cool. And then you saw me in the mall, you would never even know that's me. It's so like, the story is done. It's done.
Mhm.
So I wanted to create something that Canadians could be proud of, and the strategy has worked amazingly. Restaurants, licensees, hotels, they've been very, very, welcoming to say, we want to stock this because we are in Toronto, we're Canadian business, and we want to support local. And now we finally have something local that we can get behind. The quality is there, the presentation is there. It's all of that. It's like, Drake is a great artist. Drake is massive. Drake has a whole country behind him. Justin Bieber has a whole country behind him. Celine Dion has a whole country behind her. Michael Bublé has a country behind. We want to support our own, regardless of the industry. So that's what brought this about.
Um,
Sorry for the long-winded explanation.
no, you know what? I'm sure your story is a lot more wider than that, and you're able to encapsulate it in that short amount of time, in my eyes. So thank you for sharing that. I'm certain people are thinking about like the business itself. Like when you think about getting into any business,
Mhm.
especially pre-existing businesses that have many different players in it,
Yeah.
it could be challenging. So for somebody listening who's saying to themselves, like, yeah, I want to get into something, but the market could be saturated, what would you say?
No market is oversaturated. Most markets are saturated, right? But you look at, let's use Elon as an example. Cars existed since Henry Ford developed a car way, way back in the day. The automobile market is heavily saturated, but there's still room for new players, right? Tesla is one of them, and Tesla ends up surpassing how many different companies? You look at brands coming out of Asia, right? And yes, we're talking about, some of these newer brands, they're using electric um, modes of or ways of powering their vehicle versus traditional fossil fuels. But it's still a car, right? They have to say, well, why is somebody going to buy our brand over, this other brand? You look at this other brand, I think it's called Grenadier. They look like almost like Land Rover Defenders, right? But they utilize BMW engines. Um, you look at that brand, that's a gas powered SUV that has been very successful for the most part based on their rollout. Um, why is somebody going to buy that SUV over an actual Defender, over a Range, over a Toyota Land Cruiser or something like that? There's room for everything. Like there's still room. You have to find your gap. You have to just identify and that little bit of white noise where you're like, it's just enough for me to squeeze in. And then what it's about is that white noise is your main consumer, right? They're there. They're kind of like, there are all these things on the market. I still haven't picked anything. So now you're like, okay, I'm going to give you an option that you've never seen before. And then hopefully they take it because as of right now, they haven't chosen anything else. They're not married to anything else. Then after you get that, now it's about the scaling, which is, you know, taking more market share. And when you take more market share of existing customers, they're customers of other brands usually. So for me, like, let's talk about the vodka for a second. It's like I position it in a way where this is Canada's luxury vodka, right? Didn't exist before. Now people are like, oh, we now have our own luxury vodka. Now I can stop drinking XYZ brand, right? And now they're like, we're gonna transfer, we're gonna merge over here to the Bank Vodka lane, because why support these other guys when we can support our own, and the vodka is better, right? And the bottle is more beautiful. And they're collector's items. Oh, I can gift this to somebody and it's going to mean a lot more to them than just something from the LCBO. Now I'm taking market share from other brands. And when you continue to do that, people, as complicated as some people can be, as human beings, we're very simple, and very simple things work. FOMO is a massive thing. A lot of people, you look at even bandwagoners. How many people said nothing about football/soccer for the last 4 years? World Cup comes, all of a sudden they're buying jerseys. They don't want to be left out. We have a herd or a pack mentality in a lot of ways, like deep within our DNA. So momentum begets more momentum. The more people that see this bottle in the hands of well-to-do people, interesting people, people that they consider, oh, like, I like that person's style. Now they're like, I need some of that. Right. And that's just marketing in general. So, looking at any industry and saying, oh, this industry looks oversaturated. No, it's saturated. Like, let's not kid ourselves. It's saturated. But is there room for you? For sure. You just have to carve out or identify that little gap. And all you need is a little gap. It's like the path of least resistance. You look at water. How many structures out there are massive concrete and steel structures, one little crack for some water to get through, and it'll find its way. And that could open up massive floodgates, right? So that's how I personally look at it, as far as saying an industry has been saturated or oversaturated. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. There's new watch brands coming out every day. There's new clothing brands coming out every day. There's new restaurants coming out every day. I don't know what the numbers are. There's new everything coming out every day. There's going to be a new vacuum brand. There's Bissell, there's Dyson, there's Black & Decker, there's General Electric. There's going to be a new vacuum brand that comes out in the next little bit. There's going to be a new blow dryer. There's appliances. There's new everything. Like, every market is. If you can tell me one market that's not oversaturated or saturated, I'd be flabbergasted.
Mm-hmm. Incredible. And I love the drip of water into the crack of even the largest structures. I think that's such a great visual and analogy to show that there's opportunity everywhere and anywhere. So what I want to ask you, Andrew, is for anybody listening, if you were to give them one piece of advice, something that them as a budding or maybe a starting entrepreneur that you learned, that you live and die by, that has been so important for you to get to the success that you've gotten to, what would you tell them?
Things I would say to them, it's a variety of things, some more important than others. And the way that my brain works, it doesn't always put the most important things first. It's just like a dryer with socks, and every sock is a thought, an idea, and I'm trying to grab it. I would say understand what your risk tolerance is, right? Because some people, and like, how do you manage stress? Some people will take a massive risk, but then they can't manage stress. And even though their idea could be working, the stress of going through the motions is going to make them take their foot off of the gas, right? And they're going to then implode, self-sabotage, because they're like, this is just too stressful. Meanwhile, let's say somebody who did that exact same business before, they were like, no, what is happening to you is exactly what's supposed to happen to you. And you're on course. Like, you're going to make it, just keep going. But they're like, oh man, I now have clients that are calling me for repairs, and how do I do all these repairs, and do I charge them? Oh, this is stressful. And they implode and they're like, I can't do this. I can't do it. They get scared. They're like, they run for the hills. I would say, you know, understanding capital, right? Understanding, what generates revenue and what's going to cost you capital, right? And, it's your P&L, profit loss, this type of stuff. So for me, in my businesses, I've always been a firm believer of I need to come out immediately in the black. Some businesses, even in spirits, brands will start off in the red, then spend on marketing, this, that, and the third, because they want to generate volume so that they can increase margin and then make up for all that, lost revenue in the beginning, right? Because let's say their profit margin, let's say they were only making $5 a bottle, and that put them in the hole by like $3, right? For everything, because they're spending on marketing, client, customer acquisition costs, yada, yada. And then what they want to do is they want to be able to order more glass, right, from their manufacturer, which the more glass they order, the cheaper it's going to be per bottle. So they need to generate that volume. So now, once they get to a point where their bottle costs are now 50%, their labeling costs are 50% of where they started, now they're covering the ground that they lost in the beginning, right? For me, I never did that because I didn't have that capital, right? I didn't have it. So it was very important to me to come out of the gate strong and profitable. When I first launched Bank Vodka, I was only profitable at 42 cents a bottle. Now we're well beyond that. Just by the way, I built the business, a very lean business, but understanding how to turn your money, because you can start off with $1,000, $5,000, and you can turn that into $100,000 a year business. And then you take that, and if you can put it back into your business model and grow it even more, great. Or sometimes you might have to pivot because you just like maxed out. Understanding working capital. Oh my gosh, that was probably my biggest thing, where it's like, okay, I say I'm going to start the brand. I invest X amount of dollars into it. I sell product. Now, let's say, for example, you use $10,000, right? You invest $10,000, you put out $10,000 worth of product, and you're like, based on what I'm selling it for, it should generate a return of X. An arbitrary number would be, let's say, 20,000. Let's say you're supposed to double your money. That money doesn't come back at the same time. It doesn't. Some people will pay right away. Some people are going to take a week. Some people are going to take 2 weeks. Some people are going to take 6 months to pay. If you don't get that full $20,000 back, and in between, life is happening. Your car needs this, that, and the third. You gotta buy groceries. You gotta pay your rent, because you're anticipating, let me get that 20,000 back. I'm gonna dump that 20,000 immediately into more glass, into more inventory, right? Because I need to buy X amount, which is gonna cost me 20,000 versus 10 for me to hit that price break. But when that money doesn't come back at the same time, let's say, you put 10,000 out, you get 12,000 back, and the other 8,000 is drag heels. You cannot hit that price break when it comes to ordering inventory, right? So you're short on working capital. That was one of the, oh my gosh, like it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I've always heard, it being an example, like you watch Shark Tank, you watch Dragon's Den, it's like, okay, you're generating X amount, but why can't you fulfill these orders? You're making $1 million a year. It's like, we need working capital. I never understood it until I was in it. You gotta know how much working capital you need. And sometimes you're gonna have to rinse and repeat on the same margins 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times for you to generate enough working capital to get the price breaks by buying more inventory, whatever your inventory is. That's something people overlook like crazy. And if they don't understand it, they could fail, because now you can't keep up with orders. So here you have a business that's great. People love your product, but people are now trying to order from you and you don't have any inventory. And now what happens? Now you have an unsatisfied customer. And bad news travels 10 times faster than good news. And your customer is like, this is a headache. I'm just going to go to the tried and true people who have been in place for decades. Their product is ready to go all the time.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Another thing is, you know, trust the process, right? Have a certain level of patience with yourself and just with the business in general. My first year, so 2023 to 2024 was R&D, pretty much. Research and development. It was tweaking the bottle. And when I mean the bottle is the packaging, right? Same great liquid, but the graphics were different. The label on the back was different. The shrink cap was different. The badge was a little bit different. And I did that over a year to see what worked. Then 2024, August to August 2025 was really just brute force grinding, knocking on every door, almost like cold calling. You're going into venues that you dream to be in, outside of the ones that you have relationships with. And you're sending emails. You're going on Instagram and you're finding all the newest restaurants because you can't reach them all in a day. So you find all their emails and then you send out mass emails. Hey, this is a brand new product. This is who we are. Not everybody can get back to you. You can't take that personally, right? People might say, I'll call you back. They don't call you back. Here's my number. Here's my email. You get no response. You got to have patience for that, right? Another thing would be, don't expect, if you can get support from your immediate friends and family to purchase your product, great. But that's not your core customer. There's strangers out there that are going to purchase your product because they actually love this specific product and you've never met them in your life. And that could actually be a blessing because they have no notions of you previously. Because a lot of people want to see you be successful, just not more successful than them. And that will manifest and come out in certain ways. It's the everything from, oh, must be nice. Oh, you're a lucky person to be able to do this, to, yeah, that would, yeah, your vodka is good, but like, have you tried this? You know what I mean? And it's something I read one time. It said, your friends will show up to your coffee shop with a Starbucks cup in hand and ask you how your business is doing. Like, get it? Like, I've seen people be like, I'm going to start this business. My friends are going to support me, yada, yada. No, they're not. If you have some friends who genuinely will, you're blessed. A majority of them won't. They won't even like your post on Instagram. Something that costs nothing. They're watching your story anyway. They're just going to watch and they won't even hit the double tap off of the strength that you're their friend, knowing that like will put you into an algorithm. The more of them you get, which is momentum, begets more momentum. The Instagram algorithm is going to say, wow, this is generating a lot of likes. Now let's keep pushing it because people are obviously liking it. That's free. My friends have a business. I'm double tapping every single time. It costs me nothing. But when you look at it, strangers are the ones that are hitting that double tap. So it's from the little things to the big things. And you'll learn that very quickly. Another lesson, be careful who you get into bed with, business-wise and in real life. But
I was going to say,
right,
I think that applies across the board.
Across the board. I've had it, for me, when I was launching the company, I went to people, I was like, listen, like I have this idea that I showed them proof of concept, this, and the third. And they're like, yeah, but I'm not sure about the name, this. And they're like, well, I'll give you X amount, but like, you got to change this. Or, we're going to have to meet once a week, yada, yada. It's not worth it. Sometimes it's not worth it. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. You got some capital from somebody. Now you got to pick up every call, right? They want to know what's going on. Why are sales down this week, right? How can we surpass last week's sales? Meanwhile, last week's sales, let's say you sold 10,000 bottles. This week you sold 9,000. They're like, wait a minute, this week should be 11,000. Why isn't it this? It's like, sometimes it's like this, but you don't want to deal with that stress. Be careful who you get into bed with, something that money comes with a lot of like headaches because people are serious about their money. Sometimes it's better to just be very scrappy and fund things yourself. If you're unable to do that, sometimes it's better to just take out a loan from a bank versus getting it from an actual person and an investor where you're giving up equity, you're giving up control, this, that, and the third. Another thing, make sure your business is like legit and you have mechanisms in place that will ensure that you own your business, right? Do your trademarking, register your business, incorporate it, this, that, and the third. That's very, very important because somebody could come in
Yeah.
from underneath you.
I was thinking about it. I'll probably just come out with my own vodka, call it Rank Vodka.
Here's the thing. I would love for you to do that, especially call it rank, because nobody wants anything rank.
Nah.
Oh, and you know I think, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I welcome competition because I played sports.
Yeah.
So
Makes
you
you
know,
better.
yeah, like for sure. We're competing.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with competition, you know. But yeah, those are just some of the things that some of the pieces of advice that I would give people. Like, and there's a lot more. There's treasure chest of advice.
So, Andrew,
Yeah.
we're 5 years into the future. It's 2030, 2031.
Mhm.
What does Bank Vodka look like then?
Bank Vodka looks like in 5 years, an internationally distributed vodka brand. Bank Vodka looks like it is actively competing, like, to the general public, household name, where they're like, okay, there's X brand, there's Y brand, there's Z brand, there's Bank Vodka. Like, it's in the conversation now, because it's just been promoted and marketed so well. There is a number, a monetary number that I would attach to a 5-year outlook on it. And, that number is a very healthy number, because at that point in time, I think you start to flirt with acquisition, right? You start to flirt with the idea of a much larger company coming along and saying, we'll give you this for this. And, you look at that number and you're like, okay, how long would it take me to achieve that number on my own versus I could take it now? And that's with any business, but with Bank Vodka specifically, I think in 5 years, that's when I start making different decisions as far as, do I keep it going as a legacy brand, family heritage, yada, yada, or do we, sell? A lot of people enter the alcohol space to sell. As of right now, we do have a plan for scaling and growing. There are no plans in place about selling the brand or anything like that. It's, let's build something epic. Like, Bank Vodka will be the number one vodka, especially in Canada. It's going to happen. So 5 years out, I see that. I see us participating in major sporting events as sponsors, potentially F1. I love F1. Tennis, it could be major opens, right? Golf events, things like that. A variety of things. Like, there are no limits. I don't even want to say sky's the limit. So this thing, the first 3 years have been just like figuring it out. Even year number 2 now, and I'm going into year 3. Number 2, just the last 3 months, I'm seeing growth, and the growth is exponential. So with more resources behind me going into year 3, it's like the end of year 3 is going to look insane. So I can't even really imagine what 5 years looks like from now. But I can say the plan to grow and scale is definitely in place. You'd have to make some adjustments along the way for sure. But for the most part, let's just scale this thing. Let's maintain the integrity of the product, the positioning of the product. Let's keep our consumer base happy. Let's keep people wanting the product, and let's, just keep those things in place and continue to just grow.
I'm praying for you, my man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It means a lot.
Yeah. So this is the part of the conversation where I have the guests recite that letter to the former self. So what would you say to that younger Andrew, knowing everything that you know right now?
Everything is shorter than this, but I'm gonna expand it a little bit. Everything that you're doing, just keep doing it. You know the butterfly effect?
Mhm.
Have you heard about the butterfly
Yep.
effect? So, right, everything that I've done in my past, everything that I've experienced has brought me right here. I'm meant to be here. The one thing I had to do or not do was just don't quit. Just don't quit. If I had quit, if anything that I did, any of the entrepreneurial experiences that I had from CDs to clothing lines to this, that, and the third, like I've done it all. I did lawn care. I did so many different things. If I had quit any one of those, like prematurely and not gone through the process of trying it, failing completely, right? And then saying, okay, that's failed. Now we have to move on. I probably wouldn't have learned the lessons to be where I am. Now, with that being said, if you look at the butterfly effect, maybe I'd be further ahead, but I could also be further behind. So it's just don't quit. You cannot quit. There's a very popular world leader of a G7 country that, I'm not into politics that much, but he said something extremely interesting. I saw the video. He's very successful himself as a multi-billionaire, so I'm sure we all know who I'm speaking about. He's a very popular world leader. He said he met a lot of geniuses in his day, very intelligent people with great ideas, but they quit and they never ever got to see their thing come to fruition. You can't quit. Don't quit. That's literally it. It's not no, I'm not gonna drag it out and turn it into this big thing for the purposes of entertainment. It's literally don't quit. If I could just look at my younger self and be like a whispering voice in their in my ear, don't quit. Don't quit. Don't quit. You know, if you didn't push through those reps, would you have the physique that you have now? Nope. If you quit, if you're like, oh man, this is too heavy. You needed somebody in the gym to be with you and be like, come on, push, push, push. They spot you a little bit. They're using their fingers to tap. They're not even lifting, but in your mind,
Mentally. Yeah.
exactly. It's just don't quit. Don't quit. Anybody that's been great, truly great at what they do, they did not quit. They did the things they didn't want to do. They didn't quit. Oh, this is hard. I'm going to quit. Well, you're going to fail. Guaranteed. If you quit, you fail. Fail forward. Don't fail because you quit. Fail because you went through the process. It just didn't work out, but you learned valuable lessons from it. But don't quit. Go until the bitter, try everything. When you've exhausted all resources and options, then you say, I've done my best. I can truly say I can sleep comfortably at night. I did this thing. What's next? Just don't quit. It's very simple.
Incredible. Andrew, this was an amazing conversation. I can't thank you enough. You are an inspiration. You're doing some really great things. And I definitely know you laid some really good seeds for people to pick up on today. So thank you.
Man, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you creating the platform for not just myself, but other entrepreneurs and other people that you deem to be contributors to society in various ways to tell their story and express themselves. Without platforms like this, it really it stifles a lot of entrepreneurship, right? Because this video, not even just mine, just some other ones that you posted, that those videos could have been the catalyst for people starting their business. They're like, I needed to hear that. I'm gonna go do it. And then that person ends up being the biggest thing in their field, in their industry, because they saw something like this, right? So and it encourages people like myself to just continue pushing. Like this is fun for me. I like being able to polish my skills when it comes to articulating my thought and expressing my vision this is getting me ready for the major leagues. When I'm talking to BNN and CBC and Forbes and stuff like that. Not to say that you're not gonna be there yourself.
I
It's
may
just
be
like
interviewing you on Forbes, hopefully.
exactly, because you are a great. I've been interviewed many times for music stuff and for other things, and you are a great interviewer. The way that you listen to the response and you can take information and formulate your next question. So I pay attention to those things as well. But thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. For everybody out there watching, I hope I was able to inspire you, to give you some gems, to give you some hope. Maybe start that thing that you've been delaying and putting on the back burner. Start it today. Like, even if it's something little, like if you can do 10 things a day, if you can split up to 5 big things and 5 tiny things, right? So it balances out to like an average of what is going to put you in a better position tomorrow with yourself and your business. That's it. That's it. Maybe it's okay. I'm going to research suppliers today. I'm going to register my business today. I'm going to open the bank account. I'm going to buy a notebook so I can keep track of things. I'm going to learn Excel. I'm going to, whatever it is, your tomorrow self is going to thank you for that. And then to land the plane, you can follow us on Instagram at Andrew Bank, BANK, Vodka. You can follow us there on Instagram. We look forward to meeting you all. DM me anytime. The messages come to me. I will always respond. And I'll see you in the real world as well when you run into me and you become a collector.